Happy Friday Eve, my friends. It is Medical Billers Network Live Day. And today we are, question of the day, looking for the answer to what is your favorite fall themed food. When you get here, let me know that you're here. Put something in the comments. I'm like talking really slowly because I got another little message from my computer, but I'm good, right? Let me know when you guys get here if you can hear me loud and clear and that the connection looks okay. Today we are looking good now. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Today we are looking at the topic of AR. So when you get here, if you have questions already about it, did you listen to last week's live and were you, how did it land for you? Was it exciting? Was it overwhelming? Hi, Iris, welcome. Sweet potatoes, broccoli, rice, and cheese. All that sounds good together. Yeah, you know what I was thinking about mine? It's so not like it's not maybe like a food, but more of like an ingredient in a lot of different foods. And that's like cinnamon, anything cinnamony. I love that smell. Like right now, my favorite thing is walking into the grocery stores and they have those big cinnamon sticks or whatever it is that like, smacks you in the face when you walk in. I like that. I don't like a lot of like very overwhelming smells, but I do like the cinnamon season. So I'd say like a drink related to that is like a good apple cider, something that has like a lot of cinnamon though, one that's got a little spice. Yeah, started to add smoked paprika. I like smoked paprika. I like anything smoky actually. Strange, but I like smoked like flavor. So I've that's been a new thing I think in the last few years for me. So yeah, when you guys get here, make sure you tell me where you're joining from and your favorite fall themed food or drink or smell, whatever reminds you of the fall season. We are kind of dipping back into like a taste of summer here in North Carolina. I have on long sleeves, but I'm like been sweating all day. It's going to be like 80 something tomorrow. So I don't know where fall went, but she's taking a little break for the weekend. So yeah. Anytime hot. Yes. Hi, Vanita. Good to see you. So today we're looking at AR. I actually have a little bit of a different experience for you guys today. I'm going to do a presentation today. So wish me luck. So Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah. Is it cold there already? I'm curious. Is it already like icy and all that goes on? Not icy, but those temperatures where things dip pretty low. I know that Ohio can get some pretty intense ice. But today we're doing a presentation and it should be helpful. My friends that are new to billing or new-ish or maybe haven't really had really good foundation, except having dived into your work as a biller. I think that you'll appreciate some of the discussion we'll have today. And if you are a master biller and everything that I share today is like easy peasy lemon squeezy, share your knowledge. Let's make it fun and exciting for everybody to gain a little bit more knowledge. So hi, I see Facebook user, I don't see your name, but Buffalo, New York, apple cider and candy corn. I love candy corn too. There is one little thing though that when I moved to being a plant-based person, I was going to say a vegan, but plant-based person, candy corn is not vegan. So I had to find a vegan one and they have them. So shout out to like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's for the endless supply of vegan friendly candy corn. So, but I do like a good candy corn and it's weird because it's like, I don't know what it is exactly, but it's yummy. Exactly. It's yummy. That's all that matters, right? So, all right. So today, yeah, it is basically the same. Is plant-based the same as vegan? That's a great question. So I like to say that it can be very different because people that identify as vegan sometimes don't eat a lot of plants or that they don't think they really do. They might eat a lot of processed foods. So I try to avoid processed foods and not live out of a box, if that helps you understand. So I like to identify more as plant-based, especially because there's so many things that are vegan, like Oreos. Everyone loves a good Oreo. That's vegan, but it's definitely not plant-based. It's definitely made in a laboratory. So I hope that clears it up a little bit. But I do like a good Oreo from time to time. But it's definitely nothing natural about that Oreo, especially the double stuffed ones. So yeah, I got I got a comment that said that yes, candy corn is just sugar. Pretty much. It's yummy sugar though. All right, so today we are doing a presentation chatting about accounts receivables, my billers, my master billers. If you are in the house, please share your knowledge. Let's share with our new friends that maybe are learning, or my friends that have been here for a while and still we're learning and we're growing and we're expanding together. I am going to attempt to do this without messing anything up. So you get to see and celebrate if I get this right. So here we go. Let's see. I'm pushing buttons and I think I'm going to get it right. Let's see. I think I'm almost there. It's there. Yay. All right. I can see it. I think, uh-oh, I hit peekaboo. All right. All right. Well, it works. We know that. So hang on one second. I hit a button to try to get it out of my way, but apparently I hit the wrong one. So hide. There it is. All right. So we are looking at accounts receivables today. So we like to refer to this as AR affectionately, and keep in mind that AR can stand for a couple of different things. Most commonly in the accounting world, we call this accounts receivables because it very literally means it is money that you are expecting to receive. And in the billing world, in regards to services that you have sent to insurances or to patients, right? It can be both patient or insurance related. The overarching term is monies that are due to you that you are expecting to receive. So there is also another term that we use kind of semi-interchangeably, and that is aged receivables or aged reports. And we'll talk a little bit about both today, just so you understand some of the differences between the terms and when one might be used versus the other. And so AR, the heart of AR, is follow-up. And the magic truly happens in the follow-up. If you are a biller and you don't find yourself having time to do anything in the world of AR, then you are missing out on a lot of the revenue cycle and the heart really of your role as a biller. And I speak from having spoken to a lot of different organizations and even spoken to folks who have come on board. I've interviewed with them that they were working with organizations in the past where they had so much busy work with charge entry, with trying to get claims out the door and payment posting, that they never worked their AR. They never did things in the way of follow-up. And it just means that you're just leaving money just all the way, like it's not on the table is not enough. You're leaving money on the table is what they say, but you are just not even making an attempt if you aren't touching your AR report from time to time. So it's important to keep that in mind and recognize that it's super duper important for us as billers to care. So understand how to find outstanding claims. So there are really kind of two things that we just discussed. Accounts receivables and then aging buckets are really the heart of our aged receivables that we care about. And we'll look at both of these today. Accounts receivables, really, it's looking at the amounts that are outstanding. And really, when you're wanting to do accounts receivable or AR work, you're really wanting to work as much of your unpaid claims as possible, as close to 100% of unpaid claims as possible. We say, you can look at working those monthly or 60 days. That's just an example. An AR cycle means that's think of it as like the full touch for all of your unpaid claims or outstanding claims getting touched in a particular period. And usually we label that term as a cycle. So if you pull a report today and it takes you 3 months to get through every patient on that report, I hope it doesn't, but if it does take you 3 months to get to every patient on that report, that would be your AR cycle. And your goal would be to kind of shave off a little bit more time as ideally your volume decreases. So keeping in mind that the cycle is going to vary depending upon the volume and the amount of support you have. Like right now, if you are one of the individuals who has no time to follow up on claims because you're busy with all the other minutia of the billing world, and you're doing like verifications and authorizations and a myriad of things, as I like that word, by the way, a myriad of things, then you are probably not having a whole lot of time, percentage of your week devoted to AR. So you might take longer to get through your entire aging report or your accounts receivable report. And I'm gonna go back and forth between those terms so you can start to hear them, both AR related to age receivables and accounts receivables, because both of them matter. Now, they're not exactly the same thing, but we'll talk about, they're like sisters, right? And so there really is an importance that you hear and feel comfortable with both terms. And then of course, we'll talk about them today and that you will understand them. So I'm gonna show some examples of those terms. So aging buckets, we'll look at aging buckets. Essentially, you're looking at the time from which an insurance claim was submitted to a carrier. So you've generated a claim to an insurance carrier or a payer, and that's synonymous. You've sent a claim and a clock starts to tick. And from that point in which the claim was submitted, there is an expectation that the insurance company will reimburse. Now, if it's still outstanding, it begins to age, which means it begins to get older, right? So just like we age, the claim has a way of aging as well. So it just continues to move down the line of our buckets. And we'll look at an example of buckets today. You do want to set an acceptable percentage for each of your buckets. And we're going to look at some examples today of some sample reports so you can kind of get a sense of what those could look like, and how you could set your own goals. This is going to be a very high level conversation related to both accounts receivables and aging buckets. We are going to continue to dive really deep into this. Last conversation was we'll say a very kind of high level overview of like following up on a claim, but we're going to just really start to break down each area. So now we're looking at like accounts receivables report or AR reports when you might start triggering follow-up, but there's a lot of little steps along the way that you need to take, which is really deciphering like what is the priority of a claim. Like you don't want to just dive in to your first claim that's because the patient's name starts with the letter A or something. You're just working down your list in alphabetical order is so important, especially if you've got 300 pages. I'm just saying if you generated this on paper, for example, and you have a 300-page report and you're just working from A down to Z on your report, you're probably going to be missing a lot of opportunity as you work down your report in that method. And so today we'll talk a little bit some ways that you can save yourself with that work. So looking at our first example here, it's a little blurry when it's in full screen. Let me know if you guys can see it okay. So this is an example of an AR, an aged report. So it's not a full accounts receivable because it doesn't have detail. So I can't tell if Jane Doe has a balance outstanding. What I see instead is an insurance company and how much is outstanding to each carrier. So this is very important information for me to understand where I need to focus my attention. And so I'm going to give you a little quiz, my friends, my billers in the space. If you were looking at this report while I continue to start walking through it, if you're looking at this report, and let's keep into mind that United Healthcare has a 90-day timely filing, right? Keeping in mind all of the insurance companies that have timely filing limitations. What is the most important thing that I should touch here on my report? And I just gave you guys a little hint there. But while I talk about this report and talk about the breakdown here, you, my billers in the space, if you want to pop in that in the chat, like explain to me why and what would be the first insurance company we should focus on here. And looking at the amounts, so recognizing what the oldest and the newest is. All right. So while you guys are thinking that up, I'm going to walk through the layout of this report and kind of how to interpret the information. So this is our insurance company or payer name, whatever, affectionate way you want to term it. This is the insurance company that we have billed. Okay. So it might be a secondary, it might be a primary, but this is the one that has the responsibility according to the software that you've pulled this report from. Okay. This next bucket, 0 to 30, I intentionally didn't put any labels here because this relates to the days. And I want you guys to start to see that some companies or some carriers, some softwares will present this with or without more information. So it's important for you to understand when you see these types of dates, it actually relates to time frames in which the claim has gotten to a certain age. So like we talked about before, this particular claim went to AARP and it is currently aging, but it is still pretty young. So it's only from within today or the last 30 days. So we consider this to be a fairly young claim or a current claim because our expectation is, yes, insurance companies nowadays reimburse very quickly. Typically within 7 to 10 days, we're going to see a reimbursement for those, but it does take time for someone to maybe post the payment, get it reconciled, applied to a patient's account. So you might be 2 weeks out. And if there's any delays in processing, let's say your claim gets trapped in a clearinghouse on either side, that can delay it a little bit more. But anything within 0 to 30 days is still considered current. So first thing to know is we're not as concerned about, yes, Facebook user, high five. We'll talk about the answer that you just gave. Yes, that is the correct answer. And we will cover as why United Healthcare is the most important carrier, all right, to focus on first. So the next column relates to the next 30 days period. So 31 to 60 days is the next period that we are looking at here on the report. And we've got a few more carriers that have jumped onto the report and certainly some pretty large numbers here already on this report. And I will say this, that if you are delayed in doing things like cleaning up rejections in either clearinghouse, either side of the clearinghouse, whether it's the payer side or your in-house software, we'll talk a little bit about what I mean there in a few moments. But if you delay that process, you could easily get into 31 days. And I say, like, if you've got a claim for Jane Doe and the diagnosis is no longer valid, we just had diagnoses get updated, right? Diagnosis is no longer valid, and it takes you 2 or 3 weeks to get to that claim in your clearinghouse. And then you are sending the claim to insurance, and then your software has already clocked this. Okay. Because in most cases, a lot of software is not directly connected to the acceptance of a claim. What the software sees is when you submitted that claim, and that is the date that the claim will start to age. Okay. And so whether or not it got to your clearinghouse and you let it sit there for 2 or 3 weeks, the software doesn't in all instances know that. Now, there are software that do track aging from acceptance, but they're few and far in between these days. There's still lots of improvements happening there. So as our claims continue, you'll notice you're adding 30 days. Typically, a software is going to use 30-day periods, and then you're going to either have a 90 plus area here, meaning like anything more than 90 days, or you'll have a 121. Some software go even further. That kind of annoys me when it gets way too down into the minutia of things. It's like the goal really is to let's nip it in the bud as early as we can. Once it gets to 121, the likelihood of it being successfully captured or appealed and it's much smaller. So your volume should be smaller because you should already be working on these claims as they enter into these earlier buckets. Okay. So yes, you can find it of value if you've got some things that are older. But the closer you get to 365 days, there are very few insurance companies that will even process a claim over a year old. And, excuse me. And you have to contend with appealing timeframes if you sent a claim out and need to get something corrected or appealed. So we'll talk about that at a later date. But yeah. So these are our aging buckets on our AR report. So our aging buckets are these buckets. We call them buckets because they can have holes. Things can stay. Okay, hang on one second, guys. Okay, sorry. There was a breakthrough call happening on my phone. So I know who it is because of the ring. But okay. Excuse me. I wanted to just mention this. So these are aging buckets, and these aging buckets are helping you to really, yes, there can be a collection of information that that tells you a little bit more about what needs to be done first. And so our little mini quiz earlier that I pretty much botched. I gave a little bit of too much information, we'll say. By I should have let you billers decipher, but I know you might not be familiar with some of these other carriers. But United Healthcare has a 90-day timely filing period. So as I'm looking at this, I might think, okay, I want to work on my oldest and largest balance first. That is typically how billers will operate. We're looking at oldest and largest, okay? However, in this instance, we're actually going to need to also apply other logic, which is knowing the timely filing limitations of the insurance companies that we work with. So if we know Medicare has 365 days of a filing limitation, which they do, we know that Medicare has that filing limit. We care about, don't get me wrong, we care about this balance, but we want to try to prevent this guy, this 682, from going into this bucket with everything that we can, because once it goes into timely filing, when it's past timely filing, it is very rare to get that kind of appeal to be paid nowadays, because most of us are filing electronically and the insurance companies are like, prove to me that you sent it electronically and that we accepted it. And that's like impossible because they would have that in their system. There are some instances that you can, and it really just depends on, who, let's say you filed to the wrong company because patient provided that. There's ways you can combat it, but it's less likely that they're going to consider it. And so you might lose this money if it goes into the over 90 bucket. So you want to nip this in the bud first, and it's a smaller amount, so hopefully it'll take you less time. Okay. So that's just one way that you're going to apply logic while looking at this. The second thing to know is anything I see here with a negative, like this $52, this is probably the very bottom of the list of resolution, because there's a couple things that might be going on. You might have something that got posted wrong. You might have an overpayment that's already been issued but not been applied, right? So there's a combination of things there. This probably can go more to your accounting team or your payment posting team if you have one, than something that you as a biller have to follow up on, because it's likely not going to result in more revenue. And most of us care about bringing more revenue to the organization, or as much as possible, right? And especially if you're getting paid on any sort of commission or performance-based pay. All right, so let me know if you have questions as we're moving through this. I may not be able to answer it today, but I would love to have answers for you guys tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next week. Or if you're in the Facebook group on Tuesday, Tip Tuesday, we are going to be adding one more session in the Facebook group as well. So, but let me know if you have questions, and if you are wanting to add anything, if you're a master biller, anything on here in my master billers that you see that you would like to give a little bit more insight into. All right, so I'm going to move past this report. I'm going to just quickly just touch on the fact that you'll have totals here at the bottom. This can also help you understand the totals in each bucket, which bucket needs the most attention. So if your list is very long, let's say you have 50 payers, you're probably going to zip down to your totals first to get some clarity and then work backwards. So you say, okay, 121 looks pretty high. Let me see, and then work a little bit backwards. And I even recommend, if you've got this on paper, you might even pull out a highlighter and kind of classify some of those. So should we automatically write off 121 days? That's a really good question, Vanita. I'm going to put that on the screen just so everyone sees it. I do not believe you should automatically write off anything. Nothing. Not a thing. And I'll say that, except in exceptions of like you're coming into a practice and there was never any follow-up, or there's never any payments that got posted. That's like a bizarre thing that we'll see from time to time, where claims go out and no one has posted payments into the software. If that has been happening for more than a year, you probably want to make the recommendation to have the provider write off anything over a year at the minimum. Depending on the size of your practice, you might want to have someone invest the time in posting, especially if it's possible for you to bring in the payments electronically and let them post or auto post in some way. It's probably, it might be of value to you to get a good sense of what the real AR is. So, and that's actually brings me to a really great next point is, if you do not have, excuse me, guys, if you do not have payments posted in your software and reconciled up to date, you do not want to generate an AR report, because the information will not be accurate. You need to make sure you have your payments posted as much as possible. And, not saying you got to post it through today per se. Let's say you have a particular time frame, you're doing it through the end of every week or something like that. You got to get them posted as close to up to date as possible so that you can generate a more accurate AR report. Okay. But yes, I don't believe in automatically writing off anything. That just means losses to everybody. And so, let's not just go along the roads of writing things off automatically. Now, if your practice has a policy, if you've appealed something once, or you've tried it, or it's let's say 6 months or 9 months, and you've tried to resubmit or tried to submit as a corrected claim or something like that, and the practice allows you to do that, then you absolutely can. No, over 121 is actually not enough, because like I said earlier, Blue Cross Blue Shield in a lot of states and Medicare are 365 days of filing. So you would be like writing off reimbursable claims potentially. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Very good question. And thank you for asking. Thank you so much for asking it. All right. So our next one, it's a little blurry when it's full screen. Sorry, guys, I didn't test that out. But let me know if you can't see it. If not, I'll make sure that we present another example of this in the next couple of weeks. Okay. So percentage and aging buckets. So I'm going to cover this as clearly as I can without having a calculator. So just because I feel like it's going to get messy if I pull out the calculator. So if I'm looking at just this first example here, okay, this report that we had on the previous screen, these numbers down here at the bottom are the totals, right? So this next screen, pretend like this is the bottom of that previous report, right? It's the totals. Okay. Notice the language is different. Remember, I told you every report's different. So I wanted you to see the different language that you might see. So it might be insurance aging. It might have nothing. It might just be numbers. It might be, notice the range, or it might be what you see here. Current, which is 0 to 30, 30 plus, 60 plus, 90 plus. You might see it written in this way. So know that language will be different, but it's exactly the same concept. All right. When we're looking at our total, this is our total accounts receivable. So that factors in everything that we've billed to this moment, to today, okay? And then this first bucket here is our current. So our 0, meaning from this moment to back 30 days or back 29 30 days, depending on, how quickly you've done this report. Is it from today or when you batched claims? It's basically 30 days back, 0 to 30, okay? So when I look at this, I'm taking a glance at 743,000. And if I took a calculator and I divided 415 out of that, I would see that this is 55% of my total, okay? So it's almost, it's more than half, say almost half, you guys, I know math. It's more than half of my total, okay? So really important to notice that this number is current. So I'm pretty pleased with this number. I'm happy because I just sent these claims out. I know that my money for this, excuse me, the reimbursement for this amount that's sitting in current, I should still be able to receive. I should likely be able to receive a good percentage of this, okay? So 55% is in my current. Take a calculator for my over 30. 29% of this is in over 30. So from my full total, 29% is in over 30. Okay. And I'm noticing the numbers are going down. If you keep looking, this is what I would consider a very healthy AR. Okay. Because it means that we've got a little slowness in some payers. Maybe someone locks something up in the clearinghouse, like my example earlier, or some payers are just a little slow because they send snail mail checks. Those types of things might be trickling into my over 30. But by 60 days, I've gotten the majority of my money. So if I take this and add it all together, so 8 plus we'll say 9 plus another 4, 5, we got like 15% maybe, give or take a little bit. That's 60 over. I've got 85% of the money that I generated in claims values. I care about that number. It's a great number. It's a great rate of collections, 85%. Okay. Now, looking at it going smaller is so important, right? We are happy to see it get down below 2% in over 120. That's really healthy. It's not to freak out if you see it flip-flopped. It just means that there's work to do. Okay. The bottom one here is an example of that, okay? So I see here about the same number, about 700,000, except here I'm seeing, okay, I'm not generating nearly as much as I did to get to this total. I've only got 20% in my current, okay? Then I got 14 and 6, and if I see here, more than half is out here. More than half, that's a huge number. So more than half, I say more than half is out over 90. Is what I was referring to. Sorry when I said that. And so there's a big whopping problem here that needs to be addressed. And so really important to look at this and say, okay, now I see my totals. And just like in this previous report, now I can work backwards and see, okay, my 120 is really rough. My 90 is really rough. And now I know I need to be looking at my carriers to identify the culprits and find out where my problems are, because I don't necessarily see too much going on. As a matter of fact, I'm almost worried that this is maybe some stagnant growth, or maybe it's an issue of, like we just talked about a few moments ago, where payments haven't been posted and something needs to be cleaned up in the software. So aging buckets and your accounts receivables go hand in hand. The actual accounts receivables report is a lengthier report, and I'll bring an example of this for next week. Excuse me, but the report where we actually have our patients, the insurance, the details, all of potentially even the encounters and or charge sessions or whatever software you're using, and the CPT codes and diagnoses. Some of that stuff might even be available there on your aging report. I'm going to try to bring our software online to show some examples of the interactive aging that might be possible in your software. So you can also see that. I say possibly, I know it's possible for me to share that on the screen. The issue is that I have to create some fake claims data in order to do that. So I got to play around with it, but I will try to get that done so that I can make sure that you guys understand. So subtracted, not divided. Sorry, I'm just seeing your message. in the back room. Sorry about that. Yes. So here, aging buckets, AR report or accounts receivables report or age receivables. That was our discussion for today. I want to know what questions you have immediately coming to mind as you watch this session together, whether you're here now or on the replay or you rewatch this again. Let me know what things come up for you or what kinds of issues or things have you encountered in your day today. I think this is it. I have some more. Oh, I forgot to take off that little banner thing, didn't I? Sorry, guys. Let's see. Can I stop sharing? Stop screen. There it is. All right. Yay! We successfully did that live. I think I did it one time before, but that felt very uncomfortable. It's been a very long time. So listen, I do want to know what questions you guys have. We are going to be here live every Thursday. And then on Tuesdays, we're in the Facebook group live with Tip Tuesday. And as I mentioned, there's going to be one more time together. Once you break, let me see, Iris has a question. Once you break this down, do you go to insurance and then dive into patient? Absolutely. Beautiful way of articulating it. That is exactly what you do. So it is, you're just continuing to go just a little bit deeper. So it's like layer after layer. So we started with our total, we identified the culprit of the insurance. The next layer is our patient, and the next layer is our patient, and then the next layer of that is our actual encounter. And then I'll talk more in detail about this, because there really are kind of some steps to how the method, how to really follow up effectively. But the most important thing to think about is when you're on that patient, work the full patient if possible. Now, if you're not allowed to or responsible, let's say, for every bucket, then do whatever your boss says. I would suggest that you work the entire patient, because if Jane Doe has a claim in 121 days that you're working on, she might also have one in 90 days or in 60 days, and you're going to see that person again. So why not just work on Jane Doe's entire case and get all of her claims resolved and save yourself time on the other buckets as well? And you might be preventing something, let's say 121 issue for Jane Doe, unfortunately, needs to be recommended for write-off because it's not reimbursable or appealable. At least you might see hope for the other claims. You might be able to prevent those types of losses. All right, you guys, I hope you found that helpful. I love to hear your feedback. So please let me know if what I'm saying makes sense. Those of you who are new to billing, I want to know if it's clear. I love the good feedback that I get from folks who are new to billing, that let me know like that's way too complex or way too much detail or all that. So let me know in the comments when you get to this video. And at any point, feel free to just pop recommendations on any one of the comments, whether it's this video or just in the Facebook group. So yay, awesome, thank you. Yay. Oh, I love that. You are so welcome. Yeah. I mean, it's quite illuminating when you start to really understand these. These are actually key performance indicators, which means that the KPIs is what we call them in short. They're really important metrics that we use in the revenue cycle to see when something is broken. So what you learned today, we know it as billers, right, that we need to work through that AR, but you really need to understand the numbers, because if your boss wants to see a report, you can present them the totals only and not all of the other minutia, and give them a real clear and succinct answer. So listen, I appreciate you guys so much for being here. I'm so excited that we get to learn and grow together. If you have friends that are in billing, invite them. If you haven't liked this or subscribed to this channel, make sure you subscribe. Let's stay connected. And then make sure, if you're interested, if you're a biller and you're interested in giving back to the community in some way, join the Facebook group and stay active in there. The link will be underneath one of these videos somewhere. So, all right, thanks. It's good to see you. I want to be natural. Thank you all so much for the support, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.